Hey everyone, today I am talking with Mr. Bob Munds. Bob is a friend of mine who has been to more original strength workshops than anyone I know, almost including myself. And there was a time when I was really certain that he had been to more workshops than I had, and I was teaching most of them. Interestingly enough, Bob also has a tattoo of the original strength logo on his leg. Anyway, here's a fun conversation with a good buddy that I haven't seen in quite a while, and there may be some movement nuggets in here along the way. Pull up a chair and buckle up. It's the Original Strength BodCast.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hey everyone, today I'm with one of my favorite palindromes, Mr. Bob Munds. Bob, thanks so much for being on the show.
You're very welcome.
So, Bob, I believe I first met you at the very first official original strength workshop in Modesto, California in 2012. Is that right?
No, that's not true.
When was
Well,
it?
I guess. Oh well, we went. I was at a couple bulletproof vests. One in Massachusetts was your second ever. I think your first one
Yes.
was in Virginia, and then we got together in Chicago. Paul
So,
Linksko posted that one in the Chicago suburbs, and then I got to Modesto.
okay, so that was where I was going with that. So my
Right.
in the first 5 years of original strength, even though I was teaching all the workshops, I think you were actually at more workshops than I was.
Probably, yeah.
So, okay, so what brought you so your first workshop at OS and then all the consecutive ones? What brought you there the first time?
Well, let's see. I had just turned 60, and as with a lot of people just turning 60, you worry about, okay, I could be in a few years I'm going to retire, and I could retire to the couch and quickly deteriorate, or I could do something about it and continue to live a full active life. And I chose Plan B there. And got to looking around. I was good friends with Jeff Newport, and he helped you the two of you got to the book becoming bulletproof together, and then it went from there.
So you ended up though at I don't know, let's say it's probably not even an exaggeration, at close to 30 workshops. What
Well, you might be right. I might be right. I don't know.
what caused you to go to so many of the workshops? Because that you were a bit different.
Well, it was fun going all the early ones where you had you and Jeff, and you're making it up on most of it on the fly because you see what was it? Diaphragmatic breathing. You couldn't pronounce that one for the first two or three. So
I have definitely
well,
got an education through teaching workshops for sure.
I there's one story I got to bring up. We were in Chicago, the second workshop, and there was a young man, and all morning long he talked about he was a semi-pro football player, and he was really proud of the fact that he played semi-pro football, and he'd thrown his hip out. And then we get into the afternoon part of the day, and he's still telling us about how he prayed. And he finally asked the question about, why did I throw my hip out? And I think it was Jeff that asked him, well, do you tape your ankles? And it's all of a sudden the light bulb went off, and it's like, well, yeah. I said, well, your hip is trying to do what your ankle was meant to do. And he left. We had like an hour left in the class, and he got the answer to the one question that he wanted and left. And it was like, oh, wow. And it was like, so that was the aha moment. But yeah, it was. So yeah, you learn something new every day. So don't tape your ankles.
I remember that, and it was cool with his eureka moment, and
Yeah.
it was very funny that he left though, because you're right, he got what he wanted to know and he was out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, that was probably the biggest aha moment. Or then in Modesto, where you got we're dragging chains for the first time, and Mike Sousa, who's probably one of the strongest men you'll ever meet, he's dragging like 200 pounds of chains up and down the floor of his gym there. And okay, that's fine. But then right behind him is this little woman. She couldn't have weighed 80 pounds soaking wet, and she's dragging the same chain. And it's like, this is impressive.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And what I remember about that workshop too is you were pushing the sled, and Jeff told you to raise up your head. And as soon as you did, your power output on that sled, like the sled just got light.
Yes, it was. It was like, okay, drop your head and it slows down. Pick up your head, and it takes off. It's like, yep. And then I've gone to a lot of workshops where I'm helping people out, and a lot of people have been told to keep a neutral neck. And they're trying to swim or they're trying to crawl, and then all of a sudden it's like, there's nothing good sitting there between your hands. And it's like, your neck was made to move, reset number 2 is neck nudge. You're moving your neck. It's like picking your head up, it's made to do that. And so like, but they got to keep that neck rigid, and like, no. Or you see a lot of people when they're swinging a kettlebell, they're looking down all the time. It's like, well, might as well sit there and look at a phone all day, because you're doing the same thing.
But yeah, that's true. That's part of that is the cool part of going to the workshops and seeing everybody move in person, because that's where I would learn too, is like how the body reacts to different positions and things that you do, even the smallest things.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, every time you go to one of these workshops, you learn something. And I'm sure you're the same way. Even when you're presenting, you learn something. And we also wrap vacations around these. So we'd go wherever for a Saturday workshop, and then some of them were Saturday and Sunday. The Modesto one was the first 2-day one that you had. And then we'd spend the rest of the week just traveling around the neighborhood. So for example, Massachusetts, we got up into Maine and New Hampshire and all the New England, and it was a great time of year. If you want to go anywhere nice, go to New England in October. But Modesto, the weather was, what was it, 120 degrees that day?
They had a heat record that day, yes.
Yeah, so, and then part of our, after we got done with OS, then we went to, we traveled around, we got up to Sacramento, and then we went into Monterey. And I had done basic training in the Army back in the early 70s at Fort Ord in Monterey, and sort of wanted to see that again. Well, the fort doesn't exist anymore since they decommissioned the thing back in the early 90s. But it was really interesting to drive past, and I've seen all those sand dunes out there before. So it was just a matter of, okay, learn something, get to meet really fine people. You're included in that. And then get to have an excuse for a nice trip for our vacation. So that's what that was all. That was sort of, there's a two-edged sword there. Learn something, meet nice people, and then spend the time in some country that you had never seen before.
So one of the reasons I was asking about that is because typically fitness professionals or body professionals go to the workshops a lot. Yes. And you were also a bit different in that you were a math teacher.
That amongst several other things, yes.
So yeah, give us a little bit of your background.
Okay, well, I started my professional career as a math teacher. So I taught high school math for about 20 some years, and then started the computer science curriculum here at the school here. And so for 15 or so years, I was teaching nothing but computer science, programming, et cetera. And then in the mid 90s, we got to the point where we had so many computers in the district that we had like 500-600 computers that somebody had to get on top of it and keep track of what's going on and keep everything running. So I applied for that job. And so for about 15 years, I was the IT director for the school district. So I was never a fitness professional. I dabble in it. I taught classes at the Y and with kettlebells and I taught some OS classes there. And I taught OS to in some junior high PE classes. And when you get to the cross body movements, either crawling, whatever, or touching the knees, you could tell immediately those kids that did not crawl as infants, they just didn't have it. And it's like they're struggling, especially if you try to crawl, or if you try to skip sideways, that just completely, they can't do it. The arms are, it's always in, they're never contralateral and so on. And it's just, yep, you didn't crawl as a baby. Maybe you should get down on the floor and learn to crawl now, because you can learn and it'll help you so much later. But yeah, it's amazing teaching this stuff too, that, what you see, and you could point all the way back to, okay, when you were 8 months old, you weren't crawling.
So you said when you first went to a workshop, you were 60 years old.
Yes.
How old are you now?
I'm 68.
68.
Well, I guess I maybe was late 50s when I first went. First time I went to a kettlebell cert down with in Nashville, I was 61, I think. I think I was the oldest one there.
So at 68 right now, and I think you're retired from the school district?
For 5 years, yes. I was in the district for 40 years. So yeah, I've been out of it for 5.
And you have a shirt on right now that says, "I like golf and cycling."
And
so
that's very true. The bottom part ticks my wife off. It says, "and 3 people." And and she assumes she's not one of the 3, but
So so now that you're retired and you're 68 years young, what are things that you do to keep yourself going and to keep yourself young, mobile, and healthy?
Well, when the weather's good, I play golf. Well, I every morning I start every day with resets. And I was kind of interested, Danny's email that she sent yesterday with, if you get tired of the basics, I kind of chuckled at that, like, nah, that's all I do. I like, I know how you can progress these things, and I used to do all these progressions with all the crawling and up and down hills and dragging chains and such. But right now it's just breathing, neck nods, rolling, and so on. And then, so I'll do that for about a half an hour every day. And then I'll do a set of kettlebells 4 or 5 days a week. And then in the afternoon, I'll ride a bicycle. And right now with the weather kind of crappy, the bicycle is inside.
So pretty much every day you keep yourself moving though.
Oh yeah. I've got probably 2 hours a day of what some people might call exercise. I don't know if I'd call it exercise, but I am moving and heart rate going and everything else for at least 2 hours a day. And then in the summertime, I'll play golf about 5 or 6 times a week in the summertime. So.
Oh wow! And so you were talking about staying with the basics and stuff. So
Right.
I'm like you. I've done all. I've progressed all the resets too. But right now, I gravitate still towards the simple, and because the basics just always work. They never stop working.
That's correct. I've had issues with sciatica. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I finally had to go see a doctor about it, and went through a chiropractor, and then ended up at a pain doctor, and he gave me a couple of injections, and that calmed it for a while. And then, so that was like 3 years ago when I got the shots, and then, it never really goes away. So there's always this little bit of stiffness in the back and down, and a tiny bit of pain in the hip, but not so much. And I found that rolling is the key there to keep that in check. So, if I'll do a half an hour of resets every morning, and a lot of breathing, but a lot of rolling, and just the simple rolls, upper body and lower body rolls. I don't do none of the elevated stuff or anything. It's not time to get the heart rate up. It's just a matter of keeping the spine moving, cross body stuff, keep the body moving as it's supposed to. And after that, I'm able to move freely the rest of the day. It's a great warm up for golf too. So, a lot of rotational stuff in golf. So if your back is hurting, it's almost impossible to play golf. So
I was going to ask you how if OS had helped your golf game at all.
It has, most definitely, since golf is a rotational sport. If you can't turn, your golf swing just turns into all arms. And I'm sure you've seen golfers that try to play the game thinking, well, I've seen somebody swing a golf club, it's all arms. And no, it's a full body movement, just like everything else. And you got to stay strong. It still takes muscles to get the ball down the fairway. The occasional time that I do hit a fairway.
So speaking of things you do to keep yourself young and healthy, you have always, since I've known you, had a fantastic sense of humor, and
yes,
and you're always telling jokes. How does humor play a role in your well-being?
Well, if you would have asked any of my students back when I was teaching, they would have looked at me at what I do now and said, you're crazy. Because I don't know if I ever smiled when I was teaching class. It was like, if you ever let them know that you're human, that they might jump all over you and take advantage. So I was, you're always worried about losing control of the class. Now I do have a lot of relationships with former students that, they're lifelong relationships, but there's always that humor that I had with friends. And then on Facebook now, it's just the politics just got me down. There's so much negativity, so much stuff flowing there that I decided, okay, I'm just going to post jokes all day. And so I've got a loyal group of people that submit jokes to me now too. So if you think I'm making up all these jokes, you're wrong. There are people sending these to me all day long. But and I've got people from both sides of the political aisle that comment on my jokes, and it's just like, okay, that's great. I'm trying to be apolitical in this whole thing, and but most of my jokes are math and science and puns and things like that. So if you don't know anything about quantum mechanics, you might get half of my jokes would not make much sense. But whatever, I enjoy them.
Do you think humor plays a huge role in your well-being or in anybody's health and ability to enjoy life?
If your outlook on life, you could either go through with this sour outlook on life, and your whole body's just gonna, if you think nasty thoughts, your whole body's gonna deteriorate just because there's a joy here that everything flows from. If you're feeling good, if you're mentally feeling good, your body's gonna follow suit. And so, yes, for sure, I'm smiling all the time. I feel good. Feels good to feel good. I've heard you say that before. And yeah, that's a big part of it. If I can make somebody smile, it's a good day. And if I can make myself smile, it's a better day. Being a little selfish there.
I love what you do, because you've actually got me where if I do go to Facebook, I look for your post, because I do think there's a lot of stuff going on in the world where it is nice to be able to laugh, and it's nice to be able to laugh with other people.
I try to tell intelligent jokes too, so you have to think about some of them. A lot of Schrodinger's cat and so on, but if you don't know who Schrodinger is, then okay, fine. Find the next joke, it'll work too.
But you do a great job though of shedding a little bit of love and light on Facebook for sure. Well, Bob, thank you, man, so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome. It's great seeing you again too.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great weekend.